President Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, President Hichilema, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Your Excellency, President Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Your Excellency, President Chakwera, the President of the Republic of Malawi and Chairperson of the Southern African Development Community, Your Excellency Edward Girente, Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda, Your Excellency President Hussein Mwinyi, President of Zanzibar, Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Sihle Zikalala, Minister of Trade and Industry, Ibrahim Patel, and President of the Board of Directors of Afri-Exim Bank, and convener of the Intra-African Trade, Professor Benedict Orama, the Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Mr. Wamkele Mene, the former African Union Chairperson, Union Commission Chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, MECs and distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely proud and pleased to have this opportunity to address this Intra-Africa Trade Fair and to open it. I'd like to firstly thank and applaud three people who are really the movers and shakers of this Africa Trade Fair. That is Professor Orama, President Obasanjo, and our Premier here in this province, Mr. Sihle Zikalala. They have worked tirelessly to have this trade fair happening as it is, and I'm rather proud of their tireless work that they've put into this. There was a time when I thought it would never take off, but they have delivered, and thank you very much for all your hard work. I would also like to thank my brothers and sister in the form of the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, who couldn't come but sent President Mwinyi, President of Zanzibar, was also Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, for honoring me and KwaZulu-Natal and South Africa by your presence at this Intra-Africa Trade Fair. It doesn't often happen that heads of state attend trade fairs. I don't know what you've come to buy. It's possible you've come to buy something, but I want to thank you for having honored me by your presence here when I called some of you. You gladly accepted the invitation to come. So thank you very much for being here. On the 1st of January in 2021, this year, the African Continental Free Trade Area commenced trading. making this trade fair the first to take place since we reached the most significant milestone in our quest for African economic integration. In 2018, the first Intra-African Trade Fair opened in Egypt, in the ancient city of Cairo. Today, it is opening here in the southernmost tip of our African continent. In due course, we hope that this trade fair will be held in many other parts of our continent, as it has already proven since we held the first one in Egypt, that it enhances trade. And our mission as Africans is to enhance trade and integration on our continent. So this fair belongs to all of us. The goods and products and services exhibited at this fair represent all the countries of Africa, and its success rests on the participants who are going to be participating here. The AFCTA aspires to connect all the regions of Africa to deepen economic integration and to boost intra-African trade and investment. This AFCTA of ours aspires to create a single market for goods and services across our 55 countries on our continent, creating a market of as much as 1.3 billion people with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. This trade fair is about building bridges. It is about connecting countries. It is about connecting people as well. It brings together governments, buyers, investors, entrepreneurs, manufacturers from more than 55 countries, in many ways to give life to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The countries of Africa are open for business. Since ancient times, trade has been the engine that connected our people and communities, both near and far. From the ancient centers of learning like Alexandria, Timbuktu, to the northern civilizations in Egypt, Carthage, the western kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, Songhai, trans-Saharan trade routes, the eastern trading centers of Zanzibar, Mombasa, Mogadishu, to the ancient southern civilizations of Great Zimbabwe and Mapungubwe. For many centuries, Africans traded goods that they produced themselves. Throughout history, Africa has had a network of trade routes that facilitated the flow of goods such as gold, beads, gum, metalworks, salt, textiles, metals, and many others. These trade routes enabled African traders to seek out markets also beyond our continent. Colonialism deepened the damage that has been wrought on our continent, but it also damaged the indigenous development of African trade and caused a great deal of harm to our societies, and in many ways destroyed all those trade routes and interconnectedness that we had for centuries on our continent. At first, Europeans traded in African lives, carrying millions of slaves across the Atlantic to produce the wealth of their newfound colonies. The wealth that resides in the United States, that dazzles so many people, the wealth that resides in Europe that dazzles so many people, in large part is wealth that originated from this continent. Then, with the realization of Africa's vast raw materials, colonial powers turned to the extraction of Africa's minerals and agricultural products. Much of the economic storyline of colonialism persists to this day. Now Africa is taking concrete steps to write its own economic success story. And this Intra-African Trade Fair is part of that story. Africa is opening up new fields of opportunity. One such opportunity is Africa's rapid adoption of locally developed Fintech, of which companies such as M-Pesa is the most well-known and globally known. It is an example of financial and technological innovation in which Africa leads the world. A recent report by the Brookings Institution notes that Africa is already the largest adopter of mobile money transfer systems, comprising nearly half of the globe's registered mobile money customers. Approximately 70% of global mobile money transactions and 2/3 of the transactions by volume and by value as well. It is by harnessing all our capabilities, both existing and emerging, that we will accelerate our continent's economic growth and integrated development. It is our expectation that this trade fair will further cement its position as Africa's premier trade platform, where African manufacturers and producers can promote and sell more goods labeled "Made in Africa." I think many of us long to see that wonderful and golden label where we will see "Made in Africa," not made anywhere else in the world. This is critical if we are to change the distorted trade relationship that exists between African countries and the rest of the world. We can no longer have a situation where Africa exports raw materials and imports finished goods made with those materials. We can no longer have a situation where the resources of Africa provide employment and add value in other economies, while so many of our people live in poverty and conditions of underemployment. By promoting trade between African countries, we are strengthening our own continent's industrial base and ensuring that we produce goods for ourselves and for each other. Two key developments of global significance can serve as a stimulus for Africa to act in unison. Firstly, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic in the first quarter of 2020 exposed the frailty of African economies. More importantly, it sent a powerful message to our continent about the dangers of over-reliance on external sources to meet its growing demand for food, medicines, and essential supplies. It clearly demonstrated that Africa needs to produce its own food and medicines, to strengthen continental supply chains, and to invest in infrastructure and capacitate African institutions. To illustrate the extent of the challenge, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa estimates that Africa imports about 94% of its pharmaceutical and medicinal needs from outside the continent at an annual cost of $16 billion. Secondly, the African Continental Free Trade Area has the potential to accelerate economic growth across the continent and create opportunities for entrepreneurs, for small and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations to flourish. The AfCFTA will provide new export opportunities for made-in-Africa products and enable member countries to trade with each other without tariffs or other hindrances. All of this will, in the end, help the continent to absorb the young people on our continent looking to enter the job market annually. The AfCFTA should therefore be underpinned by strong and ambitious rules of origin, requiring a very high level of value add here and on our continent. We need, as Africans, to resist the temptation to simply become transshipment centers, adding only limited industrial value to the products that are traded on our continent. The AfCFTA will unlock more value and give effect to the dream of African development if it promotes complementary trade between countries. It is about using the combination of the continent's raw materials and industrial capacity, which must grow, but also using the finance, the services and infrastructure to produce quality finished goods to local and global markets. It is about creating a market that is large enough to attract investors from across the world to set up their production facilities on our continent, but to do so on our terms. We need to leverage platforms such as the Intra-African Trade Fair to mobilize all African governments, together with our social partners, to work tirelessly to address youth unemployment. Half of Africa's population are women. In fact, more than half. And they are the dominant actors in the informal sectors on Africa's economic landscape. But despite this, women only generate around a third of the continent's combined GDP. It is important that the Intra-Africa Trade Fair should give special attention to African women in business, recognizing their great potential as drivers of economic change across the continent. Trade is built on a bedrock of investment, but trade is also built on the bedrock of human capital. And on our continent, the women of our continent are that bedrock, and let's unleash them so that they can play their key role. We must therefore find ways of attracting more investment into our economies, and crucially, we must encourage African businesses to invest in each other's countries. And this is where we as African countries need to ensure that we remove impediments, we remove and relax the red tape that one often finds on our own continent, which impedes cross-investment on our continent. This also requires that we ease and improve the way of doing business in our countries and provide protection for investors through strong and independent legal systems that will ensure that the sanctity of contract and fair and expeditious legal processes. It means also that investors must be sensitive to our continent's development goals with regard to jobs, industrialization, localization, and the development of local entrepreneurs. The conditions of Africa's workers must also be looked at. The conditions of Africa's workers must improve as part of our development goals and the decent work agenda that all of us have committed to must find expression in our trade, investment, and industrial frameworks. On the 24th of May, 1963, independent Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah, whose hologram we watched earlier here, delivered his famous "We must unite now or perish" speech in Addis Ababa, and it was at the same time. His words are as true today as they were when the Organization of African Unity was formed. And he said, open quotes, "With our united resources, energies, and talents, we have the means, as soon as we have shown the will, to transform the economic structures of our individual states from poverty to that of wealth, from inequality to the satisfaction of popular needs. Only on a continental basis," he said, "shall we be able to plan the proper utilization of all our resources for the full development of our continent," close quote. Now is the time for action. The prophetic words that he pronounced then should be acted on, and I would say this is the time for action now. As countries, we must work with speed to resolve any outstanding issues around the AfCFTA. Let those countries that have not already ratified the AfCFTA do so. And let us take the necessary steps towards domestication. We are greatly encouraged by the sentiment expressed by the African Development Bank a few weeks ago that the implementation of the AfCFTA will be a key component of the bank's lending program, and that working with the AfCFTA Secretariat, the bank hopes to amass a number of AfCFTA-aligned investments. Finance should be available to all our countries for us to, one, industrialize, to improve our agriculture, and to do a whole lot of other things to produce products and services. South Africa stands ready to work closely with all African countries to forge more balanced, equitable, and fair trade relations amongst African nations. On the 24th of March 2022, South Africa will host its 4th South Africa Investment Conference in Johannesburg, and we look forward to seeing some of the engagements that start here at this trade fair. Engagements that will come to fruition at this conference. Engagements that will start here from contact to contract when they come to the investment conference that we will hold in 2022. I'd like to therefore welcome you all to South Africa and encourage you to enjoy and experience the warm hospitality of this great city of Durban here in KwaZulu-Natal, our province. I also invite you to take time to explore this great city and even to President Hichilema by saying to you, yes, you are welcome to also go to Nongoma, which is very closely associated with Nangoma in your own country. And here also in South Africa, you could possibly find a place which is closely related to your own name, Hichilema. In Limpopo, you could go to a place called Hachilema. So we are related and connected in many, many ways. So to all the participants, I wish you productive days ahead as we work to transform our continent and as you brush shoulders with one another. In Egypt, we were able to amass trade and investment amounting to about $40 billion. I am hoping that here, in this warm city of Durban, you will be able to outstrip what was done in the ancient city of Cairo. This is Durban. Things happen here in Durban. So go ahead and trade.
Things happen here in Durban. Fantastic stuff. I want to thank His Excellency for those rousing words, and thank you for hosting the Intra-Africa Trade Fair 2021. We wonder who's going to be the host of the Intra-Africa Trade Fair 2023. Well, I will tell you right now. No, I'm not going to tell you, actually. You'll have to wait a few minutes because we'll be announcing shortly